On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1956. We're going to be having a listen to Frankie Lymon and the Teenagers, and they're going to be singing Why Do Fools Fall in Love? Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, as always, there's a link in the description below if you want to listen to this the whole way through multiple times, because I might jump into this, but I might not, because I think it's just over a couple of minutes in length. So, we will have a listen through. The pitch monitoring software is on screen as always, so we can take a look at Frankie's voice in a little bit more detail, but let's have a listen and see how they get on. And there we have it. So, I mean, this is one of those songs that I think everybody knows, or everybody knows of a certain age, maybe. I know this song, and it was a huge hit here in the UK as well as over in the USA, and sometimes that isn't the case, that huge hits cross over, but certainly Frankie's voice is just so good. And you know, when you consider how young he was when he was singing this, because back in, 1956, this was, I know that then in 1957, and, you know, following that period, he then started more of a solo thing, but here, you know, officially Frankie Lymon and the Teenagers, just his voice stands out so much, and yeah, his age being, 13? No, it's one of those performances where it's got so many elements that you associate with more mature singers. And I mentioned this recently in a video where we looked at Barbra Streisand, where she was 13 years of age as well. And she had so many things in her voice that Frankie has in his voice, but we will jump into it and explore it a little bit more. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning, and the first thing that I want to point out actually is the mix, and Sherman Garnes, who's the bass voice that we hear at the beginning, how high in the mix it is, and then it just disappears. So, I mean, it's interesting because obviously you then want Frankie's voice to be the focus, and obviously the instrumentation is going to take over for, you know, actually having a bass line in there rather than just a voice. But have a listen to this.
Ooh,
So he just totally disappears. I mean, you can just hear his voice really low in the mix in the background there. By the way, I have calibrated the pitch monitoring software to 434 hertz, I believe, if I remember correctly. So it means that if you're listening to this and calibrating it to 440 hertz, it's not going to be close to the lines. It's going to be between lines, because this is a very old recording. I mean, it could have been the case that they tuned up to 434 hertz, or they just tuned to where they were in the studio at the time and just happens to fall on that frequency in terms of the A4 falling on 434 rather than 440 hertz. And 440 hertz became standard in the mid to late 50s, so I think more likely it's either they just tuned where they were in terms of the accompaniment in the studio, or it's a tape issue with it running a little bit slower than it did when they recorded it in the studio. But anyway, this is why I've calibrated it to 434 hertz, is so that we get a good appreciation of how accurate Frankie's voice was pitch-wise, rather than having it between the lines. So this is at least showing us where his voice was falling in relation to the accompaniment that he was singing along with, and the guys when they're singing and harmonizing with each other, and how accurate they are with each other. Thankfully, the pitch monitoring software has picked out Frankie's voice pretty well. And when I said about Frankie and Barbara earlier in the video having elements in their voice that you associate with singers who are a lot older, those things are pitch accuracy and control of vibrato. And it's not just vibrato, it's having a consistent vibrato. But listening through to this, we'll have another little listen and I'll point out a few things. Actually, first of all, you can look out for this as we watch the accuracy of Frankie's voice, because this is a huge thing. And I mentioned in that other video that nowadays all of the performances on YouTube by very young singers are being pitch corrected. So they're sounding really accurate, but they aren't actually that accurate. And that's why nowadays you go on YouTube and you'll see, potentially thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of really impressive sounding child vocalists. And it's not that there's been a massive explosion in ability, it's because the technology is advanced, where you can now take a voice that wasn't very accurate and make it sound, literally on these lines. So yeah, which you can't get more accurate than, but ironically it means that the voice is going to sound one-dimensional, because it's not going to have the expression that voices like Frankie's has in it. But let's listen to this.
Ooh, ah, ooh, ah, why do fools fall in love? Why do birds sing so gay? And lovers are wed to face to face. Why do they fall in love?
I mean, even just this first phrase, as we work our way through this kind of thing at the top here, that is so spot on pitch-wise. I mean, just listening to it, you can hear that, obviously. But, I mean, the fact that we're below the line, I mean, it doesn't matter, because it's a natural voice, so it is going to do that. And remember, he's hitting the perfect frequency for what he's singing along with, which definitely wouldn't have been on these lines or the calibrated lines to 434 hertz. No matter where the instrumentation were tuned to, he would not be singing on these lines, even if they're perfectly in tune when they then play, especially when you're talking about a double bass, for example. Having that stringed instrument, it means that that's going to go ever so slightly sharp, ever so slightly flat. So yeah, that's why great singers never sing on these lines all the time. So, I mean, as we move back, the thing about his voice is the instant control that he has. Listen again.
Ooh, ah, ooh, ah.
Even that, the ooh, yeah, the little run that he does, he's just totally in control instantly. And by the way, this is the top end of the male tenor range, in and around G sharp 4 and A4, A sharp 4. So yeah, it's way up there.
Why do fools fall?
And when I say it's way up there, for for a male voice, Obviously, at this age, he hasn't gone through any changes yet, so that's why he can be up at this height. But if you're wanting to sing it yourself, obviously, you're going to have to harness your inner child in order to get up to these notes. It'll definitely have to be a head voice thing for guys.
Why do birds sing so gay?
Like that. When he comes down to gay, he's got this vibrato that's in there just instantly, and it's controlled.
Lovers are wed to face to face. Why do they fall in love?
And there you go. Again, just that perfect control of getting the wobbles there. And if I slowed that down, you'll be able to appreciate that more, because we'll have this you'll be able to hear those peaks. Let's have a listen. It's that kind of vibrato where all the great singers have this, where you can click your fingers to the peaks of it's that even, and then sped up, in order to get the note to sing. But again, this is a 13-year-old. So this is the kind of thing, when you pair it with accuracy on this kind of level, this is what adult singers do. And the reason adult singers do it is because they've been singing a very long time and they've really honed their technique and their control. So to get a kid that can do this, it's why you get some singers some kids who sing and it sounds cute, and it's more of a novelty thing, because more often than not the child's voice is quite accurate pitch wise, but it's a bit sharp, it's a bit flat, and you can just tell it's a child's voice. Now when you start putting in techniques and stylization, such as the little slide that we had that I demonstrated between 2 or 3 notes, and then we have vibrato that's controlled, you have pitch accuracy on this kind of level, we're now talking about things that kids don't, more often than not, don't naturally do. But yeah, sometimes you'll just get a voice like this, and it is standalone because it's pairing together and combining so many elements that older singers have put together because they've trained, but some kids just get it instantly. And yeah, Frankie's definitely an example of one of those.
Why does the rain fall from up above? Why do fools fall in love? Why do they fall in love?
And it's that kind of thing, the love, he's kind of changing, and again, this is control, and it's using the voice in different ways. So he's doing something here that, again, a singer who's a lot older would do. By having the variation in there, he hasn't just learnt how to do vibrato and he does it all the time because it's just something that he's learnt to do and he thinks, oh, that's how people sing. He's changing with of singing a straight note, coming down and hitting a note with vibrato. So it means that he's combining his stylizations of making those artistic choices. And again, that's something that on a singing level is deeper than just trying to hit pitches. There's expression in there and there's artistic choice in there. And that's something that as a vocalist, as you age and as singers age, they make different artistic choices because they are almost filling their shoes as an artist. They're deciding how they want to sound, whether they want to apply vibrato, whether they want to hold notes straight, how they want to combine those two techniques together, whether they want to combine lots of notes in a particular run or not. So they're making artistic decisions about their voice, whereas Frankie has already got that process and the sound of those singers that have gone through that process. He's already got that at this age. So again, this is why it sounds great and it sounds artistically credible, because he's making those choices about his voice at this age.
Love is a losing game, and love can be a shame. I know of a fool, you see, so that foolishly tell me why.
And even there, he's going into a different part of his voice when he's kind of, hi. You know, he's kind of got this falsetto sound to it. And yeah, it sounds like it is more of a falsetto than a head voice because, you know, this kind of age, I think everything sounds like head voice anyway. Let's have a listen to that again.
Tell me why.
Yeah, it sounded a bit lighter there with tell me why. You know, a little bit lighter when he came down as well.
Birds sing so gay, and lovers are wed.
Yeah, so now, na 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 na. You know, it's a lot cleaner, that sound that he's got, rather than na 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 that we had before. It's more of a you know, more of a vocal cord connection going on there. So yeah, and again, this is A sharp 4, so it's high stuff, but you can see the accuracy that he's got. So when you start adding these things together, I mean, you can listen to a kid singing this kind of age, 13, and you can think, why does this kid sound so good? What is he doing? But then when we analyze it, we can start adding all of these things together. That he's got fantastic pitch accuracy, huge thing. He's got control of vibrato. He's also got control of singing notes straight. So he's making artistic choices, which is something that you attribute to a singer who's a lot older. Then he's using a different part of his voice, adding texture. Again, this is something that singers do when they're a lot older, going into what sounds like falsetto and then going into a cleaner head voice. But everything sounds like head voice, so you can't really say that it sounds like a chest voice because he doesn't really have that yet, because he isn't old enough to then have, you know, all of that kind of baritone bottom end if you were wanting that in his voice. But yeah, when you start piling these things up and just ticking them off the list of elements that older singers have, you then start to realize, oh right, this is why this kid's voice stands out and why it sounds so good. It's easy just to sit there and go, oh, he's a great singer and it sounds great. But then it's diving into it and thinking, why does it sound great? Obviously, that's what analysis is all about. When you're listening to this kind of thing, I mean, it's on such a top level for any age of singer, and you can see why he really was the focal point, and then yeah, went into a solo career after this. And he was just an entertainer. When you see other videos of him performing on the Howard Stone show, for example, which I saw earlier, if there is an instrumental break, as there is in this song, he will dance, and he did the splits, and he did things that were entertaining that took your attention during those instrumental sections. So it's just an all-round entertainer. You know, at such a young age. I think he was 15 when I saw him in that particular performance on the show. But thank you guys for requesting this particular video for me to take a look at, and song to have a listen to. Keep those suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below. As always, let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!